If I've learned anything from Chinese finger traps, it's that orthopedic surgeons are considered specialists and thus not covered in my insurance plan. If I've learned two things, it's that we have way more fingers than we need to play guitar. So today we're talking about really just kind of like a hack where you can play pretty much all the chords you'd ever need to play using just one finger. The finger du jour today is going to be your pointer finger. Okay, so we're going to do this in the key of C, and then we're going to do it in the official key of 2021, B flat, just to kind of really solidify it, and we're rocking out the Fender Acoustasonic today, okay? So, all the chords in the key of C major are C major, F major, G major. The minor chords are D minor, E minor, A minor, okay? So it's a really good idea to like learn a chord scale. A chord scale is basically just, the notes of the major scale, but as chords, right? C major, D minor, E minor, F major, G major, A minor, B half diminished, and C. But look at, you're using all these fingers. So many fingers. Again, after finger trap surgery, you're not gonna have the use of all your digits right away. So, we're gonna just kind of use one finger right here, pointer finger. Instead of playing a C major chord like this, we're gonna play it like this. Okay, basically how a lot of people play an A major chord in general. Right? A major is just open A, 2, 2, 2 on the D, G, and B strings, and open E, alright? You can play that as a bar chord using one finger. Doesn't matter which finger you use. Again, a lot of this is going to be contextual, which is something you'll find as you get better at guitar. But yeah, this is going to be essentially the shape that we're using. And we're going to connect this shape to play every other chord that you'll end up pairing it with, okay? So the thing to note, that if you're to play this in root position, again, root position is where the bass note is the lowest note, you get this kind of super difficult chord when you're first playing out. C major, your C is the 3rd fret on the A string, and the rest of that chord is the 5th fret. Okay, so we're taking this part and just using your pointer finger. Again, eventually you can use whatever finger. I don't know which finger you injured in that Chinese finger trap. It was dangerous, it was irresponsible for anyone to give you that, but I'm not here to judge, okay? So we're starting with the pointer finger, all right? C major, this is the C major chord. Now the first part of this hack is to think of how we find the F major chord and the G major chord, the 4 and the 5 chords in the key of C. Again, C, D, E, F, G, C, D, E, F, G. The 1, 4, and the 5, the most common chords in any song. In relation to this, 5th fret is what we're thinking of, okay? Even though our root note isn't the lowest note, called an inversion of a chord, the way we find the next major chord is we just add 5 frets. 5 plus 5 is 10. I don't need to use my fingers to do that math. Thank you, recovery, rehab. 5 to 10, that's C to F. Then 2 frets from there is G, okay? So you can play any C, F, and G. We'll move this around in other keys, but this is only half the battle right here, okay? C, F, G. Your root chord, your home chord, plus 5 frets, or 2.5 steps, plus another step or another 2 frets is always going to give you the 1, 4, and 5, okay? Now we've got 2 other ways to find the minor chords. Really, all the good songs have major chords and minor chords. Only the dumbest songs have all major chords, right? So we want to be able to mix in the minor chords. We also have to find out where they are. Guess what? It's as easy. You already know the frets. We're just playing different strings, okay? The easiest way to do this, and also the least satisfying way to do this, is just taking the highest 3 strings, okay? So if I just hold down the 5th fret on the G, B, and E strings now, that's technically going to give me a minor chord where the high E string is the root note. The 5th fret on the high string is an A, okay? That's an A minor chord, right? Here's a full traditional open-voiced A minor. Here's this one. Okay? Technically the same chord. Now you may have used this bar chord A minor in the past, right? It's really just taking away the lowest 3 strings, leaves you with that. Now I find this highly unsatisfying, okay? Because we have C major to A minor. Again, we're gonna fix this issue in just a second, but I wanna tell you how this relates to every major chord we've done, okay? C major pairs really nicely with A minor. Almost any time you see a chord or a song that has a C major chord in it, there's probably an A minor chord following very closely, right? It's called the relative minor. Anytime you want to find the relative minor of a major key in C, right, or the 8th fret of the low E string, go back 3 frets, and it's always going to give you the relative minor when you're talking about root notes, or you can just go from here to here. This is really, they have a very close relationship, especially with guitar, because this is how you find the minor pentatonic position that everybody kind of loves, right? The 5, 8, 5, 7, 5, 7, 5, 7, 5, 8, 5, 8. That's all kind of right there, built around that major home chord C. It's relative minor, okay? Every major chord in this key, you can think of having its own relative minor in that same key. So just like 5, which is we're thinking of C major here, has its relative minor A. So does, remember, add 5 frets to the 10th fret. There's the F major chord. Its relative minor is D. You just go straight down. G was the 12th fret. Its relative minor is E minor. So we have C major, F major, G major, and then we have A minor, D minor, and E minor. Now we've played all of the chords in that chord scale that we started with. And if you're one of those people who want to type in the comments that we're ignoring that B diminished chord, I have another finger that I can present to you. But this really, like I said, this is very dissatisfying to me because you just don't get the same feeling of a true minor triad, in my opinion, when you're just playing the highest 3 notes of the string. I really think for this chord voicing, you really kind of do need the bass note to make it feel more like the chord that we're kind of implying, right? So what we're gonna do is we're gonna stick on the same fret, but I wanna get the bass note in there. So again, it's the same thing. The high and the low E are always gonna be the same note, right? As long as you're in standard tuning. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna take this one finger, but now we're gonna lay it across the entire fret. I'm getting the 5th fret of the low E string. I'm skipping the A string, I'm playing this finger style. And then I'm getting the 5th fret of the D, G, and B string, right? So technically this is a minor 7 chord. Any minor chord can be turned into a minor 7 chord and still stay in the key, okay? So A minor now becomes A minor 7, but we're making a proper sacrifice by getting that low bass note in. Therefore, it's not an inversion anymore. It's called a root position, A minor 7. Same thing with the 10th fret for the D and the 12th fret for the E. Okay, now let's say you're fortunate enough that you were able to solve that Chinese finger trap and you didn't need a surgery and have to pay hundreds, tens of thousands of dollars for a routine surgery. In which case, I would invite you to join my Patreon because I kind of need the money right now. So that's going to be linked in the description. Thanks a lot for considering it. I really think that if you do have 2 fingers available, this is the best way to play a minor 7 chord in this voicing, right? Where your ring finger is holding up the major chord right here, and then your middle finger comes around and gets the low note. Or if you're so inclined, if you're a thumb player, grab that root note with your thumb, and then you're still just using one finger and a thumb. Semantics, right? But again, this is my go-to minor 7 chord. Middle finger is grabbing the root note, and then my ring finger grabs its kind of parent major, its relative major triad to get that minor 7 chord voicing. A minor 7, D minor 7, E minor 7, C major, F major, G major, okay? So it really just kind of opens up the fretboard too, where it's like, oh, maybe, you know, like me when I first started learning this, like I didn't realize that a minor 7 chord was a root note plus a major chord. It's an A note plus C major, A, C, E, G, makes it A minor 7. Again, there's a couple different ways to play a minor 7 chord, but this is just what I think is probably the easiest way that you can kind of explore the fretboard. And it's just, you know, really totally easy to understand, right? Those 6 main chords in any key, 1 finger, 3 locations. C major, A minor, F major, D minor, G major, E minor. Okay? Now, let's move this to the key of 2021, which was voted on in a free election. The B flat, right? We could just move everything 2 frets backwards, because that's the difference between C and B flat. But let's just take B flat, root on the A string is the 1st fret. So now the 3rd fret, D, G, and B. There's our 1 chord, B flat. I don't even have to know the notes in B flat. It's great to do so, by the way. I don't have to know the chords in B flat. All I have to know is that this is my 1 chord, 5 frets higher from 3 is going to be the 4 chord, 2 frets higher from there is the 5 chord. So we have 1, 4, 5, back to a 1. I also know the minor chords are going to be here. So all this is very easily movable, and again, it's just 1 finger. Even if you want to use different fingers to kind of make it a little bit easier on yourself, right? Because sometimes, especially if you're doing that thing where you get that whole bar down, a lot of times you really want to put the pressure on the lower part of, like, when I say put the pressure on it, like where you're squeezing through the neck to get some of those higher strings. I've always found that was kind of like the part that might be a little buzzy until you can kind of power through it. Again, this is 1 tip. And besides that, just another great reason to be able to do this, even if you have a fully functioning hand, is because once you get into that shape, you can really start kind of getting double stops in from that minor pentatonic, and then kind of connect. Kind of mess around and, you know, do all sorts of more fun stuff, but getting kind of like the framework of where those chords exist on the fretboard, within the key, how they relate to each other, until you really kind of have a full mastery of where everything connects, I think is really kind of like a legitimate guitar hack that when I just figured it out, I was like, well, I wish, how come I didn't figure that out sooner? I feel stupid, right? But don't feel stupid, because I did it. I'm not embarrassed to say that it took me a while to solve that Chinese finger trap, right? It's a trap. It's not like kids can do it easily most of the time. But anyways, if you have any questions or comments, hit me in the comment section, Instagram, Twitter, the website, Patreon, take one of the master classes. And like I said, I'll talk to you. Thanks a lot.